Hi, folks. Wait another minute to see if anybody else wanders by. Alright, I might as well go ahead and get started here. Let's see, first news. Lucy, we have updated the Muscadine regions on Aditi. So that's been merged from the latest simulator stuff. Yep, just within the last half hour or so. So that has a change, so you can now do the shape change thing once per 1 second is the current throttle. So yeah, no, it's been very recent. Just got that rolled out last I think half hour or so. So anyway, if you get a chance, give it a shot. We've also got an update for the viewer getting looked at by QA, but again, it's just a merge. There's not really any new features there, but at some point we'll push that out as an update to the project viewer. So let's see, other stuff going on. Euclid or Ptolemy, you want to talk about where we are with the EAP stuff? Okay, well, we'll talk about other things. If you get the audio working, just give it a shot later. Let's see, what else is going on? So, I don't want to spoil the thunder, but there is some headway on the graphics bugs there. And other stuff we have going on, I don't know, it isn't very content creator-y. We do have a bunch of projects for various kinds of UI changes, including one for improvements to the mesh uploader that we're trying to get wrapped up. The last viewer update that went out was the singleton shutdown stuff, which is supposed to reduce crash rate on exit, but shouldn't have any user visible effect. So I think that may be about it on our end, but anything folks want to ask about or chat about, we're open for discussion. The mesh uploader has some UI changes that I think originated with Firestorm. We've got a few other JIRAs that have gotten pulled into that along the way, so I don't remember all of it off the top of my head, but it's all supposed to be improvements to either give you better feedback about the model or give you better logging if something goes wrong, that kind of thing. The uploader has always been a kind of a cryptic piece of technology, and we're trying to make it, if not completely transparent, at least a little easier to tell what's going on. Let's see, bigger prims is not something we're currently looking at. But yeah, I understand that would help for some things, and it's fine. Better mesh reduction. Again, we don't have anything going on with that right now, but it's a topic that comes up a lot. Obviously, the fact that it's hard to make LODs, and a lot of people don't make them, is one of the biggest problems for content quality in world currently. So if we could have tools for getting good quality reduction automatically, big win, and it's definitely something I'm interested in about. Not currently. We've got as I say, it's the business of giving people better tools for making lower LODs is just possible future work. Yeah, that's a good expression. I hadn't heard that one either.
Oh, I'd like to, Vir, I'd like to let you know that my new partner, Optimo Maximo, he created a plugin for Maya to automatically generate LODs, and it works really awesome. And he based it on trying to get the maximum possible benefit to the uploader. So as far as Maya users, you can buy the plugin for the auto LOD, and it works on rigged mesh as well.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, for Maya through Optimo Maximo.
So is that using code that's in Maya, or is that you've kind of rolled your own mesh optimizer and it's just a kind of a plugin on top of that?
It's a code that Optimo wrote using Python.
Oh, okay.
And so cool. It is using code, for Maya. Yeah. And it might be using some functions inside Maya itself. So I don't know if the code is, self-contained, or if he's, leveraging features and functions that are already built into Maya.
Yeah. Okay, that's great. Yeah, if I have a link for that, we can probably include that in any relevant docs about tools. We talk about kind of how to do things with Blender or Maya and so forth.
Right. Yeah, sure. I'll get you that. Yeah, it's not free. Yeah, Joe.
Yeah, no, I understand. I'm not trying to bill it as free. Just giving people access to other resources. People are asking for in application reduction. Yeah, obviously having a non-free option that requires you to have Maya isn't going to be a solution for.
Correct.
I don't know how good Blender's Decimate code is. I think Blender in general is open source, isn't it? One package a lot of people have mentioned is Mesh Optimizer. Maybe that's out of Stanford, if I'm recalling correctly. But I haven't had a chance to look at that yet. It's just come up in discussions. And I also don't know the terms, if that's something that even could be included in the viewer. Yeah, I mean, there would be a lot of ways to potentially approach it. You know, just having better tools available at the time of upload would be a start. But you know, if there's some way to retrofit something onto an existing model, that would be, you know, kind of next generation coolness. But yeah, at this stage, we're just talking about the possibility. There's not any you know, definite roadmap for how that might work. I'm pretty sure God rays are out of scope for E1, sorry. Graham's already spent quite a lot of time on this. Yeah, I think after Arc10 probably does mean later at this point. I'm just looking at getting back into Arc10 like tomorrow at this point. Do we need to create new accounts for the JIRA? I don't understand the question. I'm not aware of any account issues with JIRA at this point. Lucy, I got sidetracked into another thing for a couple of weeks in there.
Let me get you bug links for the things Euclid posted. 1 minute. No, you don't have to make an account for that.
Yes, that was Dan.
Oh yeah, sorry, we do have a bunch of internal JIRAs. The SL ones aren't publicly visible. That's what Dan was doing, is digging up the ones you can get to publicly. Sometimes if you're working on something internally, it may not even have a public bug, in which case it's not really anything to link to. Well, it will be as soon as we can do it. Whether that'll be soon, I guess is TBD. You guys have any thoughts at this point? How much is left to do?
I think we're still going through the list, gonna lay the land, so to speak, but we're working on it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we will let you know once we know ourselves.
Yeah, the release notes for EAP list quite a few of the known issues, and most of those remain. There's quite a few around how the alpha textures render. They're brighter or darker, and under different lighting conditions. So those are kind of a blocker for promoting EAP for sure.
Yeah, I think we've had a lot of issues around interaction between alpha and fog and full bright and all that kind of stuff. So if it's sort of too far off of the established standard, then we'll at least try to make it more consistent. As we said before, we can't guarantee that EAP is going to be pixel for pixel identical release viewer, and you know, depending on what we find out as we're digging into these, some hopefully will have a fix that will make the behavior better. Others we may be deciding that to leave it as it is. So just have to keep you posted as these things plug along. Ugh, why am I breaking as usual? We got the voice viewer out and everything. I thought it was better for a while. Oh, well, if I sound fine, then maybe Lucy's hearing is breaking up. I don't know. If I sound like I'm getting over a cold, that's accurate. Alright, well, I'll try to yell louder. Alright, well, anything else on people's minds? Making any new interesting content lately? Well, you're going to revamp the mesh export in Firestorm again. We're still trying to get out the viewer update based on the last batch of revamped mesh exports. Oh, import. Okay. So what is mesh export then? You're trying to oh, prim to mesh. Okay. Yeah, we don't have anything analogous to that currently, I guess. What's the value out of doing that? Is it lower prim count or better performance or? Benefit to converting prims into mesh. I was curious why you'd bother. To be able to rework them in Blender, yeah. simple mesh tools, you mean like stuff you could do in the build tools in world rather than having to go through Blender or whatever? Yeah, I think that would be nice. You know, mesh import gave us a lot of hooks for bringing nice content into the world, but it's really been a big increase in complexity for creating content. I mean, not that it was super easy before, but build tools were easier than having to go off and learn Blender or Maya. Yeah, unfortunately, that's in the pile of things that we think are interesting, but got just an awful lot of other stuff kind of do ahead of it. There were, if we had contributions from any open source folks for that, we'd be more than happy to take a look at them. Muscadine is still a project viewer. There's really not much change there except that it's been merged from the latest release viewer, so it's got whatever other. Actually, it's not the latest release viewer because it's based on EAP, but it's got the latest EAP stuff, which then EAP has been merged from viewer release. So yeah, I don't think you're going to notice a lot of differences if you get the latest project viewer, but we will do an update. It's quite a long ways from RC because really we've just got the one feature so far. You know, the ability to do this one LSL command that does the visual parameters, which is nice, but we're trying to get a couple of other things investigated before we turn that into a releasable viewer. Yeah, I want to look at attach points, and there were a couple of other things too. I mean, there's a long list of potential things, but we'd at least like to get a few kind of core features working. There's also a bunch of bugs, even just around the visual params thing, mostly to do with getting vertical positioning correct. Oh yeah, the shape thing is the other one we've talked about a lot. Yeah, but it's just that I'm getting very little time to work on it. I'm leaning more toward trying to do it as a kind of smallest release we can get away with, rather than putting it off indefinitely. Yeah, I think trying to have good mesh building tools in World is hard. I mean, the existing building tools, Blender, Maya, all those things are complicated for a reason, and there's a whole lot of different stuff that they're able to do. And if we tried to roll our own version of all of that, it would, it could easily turn to be just as complicated in addition to taking essentially forever. So we would, the question really would be, is there some sort of smaller subset of that that's still useful? Do we need to add support for specifying how to skin the thing to the avatar skeleton? Models are we optimizing for? Like the good stuff. Beck, you mean automatic preview of stuff that's getting worked on someplace other than in the build tools? Okay, yeah. Like local textures or, I don't know, temp attachments or something. Lucy, I don't know about LL clear body shape. Do you really need to be able to get back to the sort of uninitialized state, or you just need to be able to get it to, some kind of reasonable default? I have a Jira for it, but there hasn't been a lot of demand so far. I don't know, maybe we could just change the existing function to allow you to set things to -1. That would have the same effect without needing a new LSL function.
Hello. Can anybody hear me? Is it working? If so, it's the right one, or am I over there again? Oh, great. Okay, so this is a question that somebody sent me to ask. The reason my peoples are afraid to come to the meeting, so I'm relaying questions. So yeah, with Pixel Mesh coming out, and we have all these fantasy bodies and stuff, and how they relate to the shapes. Someone asked, is there any plans on making...
Body shapes didn't survive shift copying. I did a bunch of work to make that stuff persistent. You really not want to have the shape be a property of the object? In fact, to me, having the shape changed is sort of analogous to having the to other properties, like you set the texture ID or whatever. And so I would expect that stuff would persist if you say take a copy and res it and that sort of thing. Right now we're talking about persistence of visual params and animeshes, and yeah, I know there's like 3 other discussions going on at the same time. Sorry. Okay, so yeah, modify the head shape without modifying the body. I mean, the stuff we're talking about for customizing animeshes lets you change individual parameters, so you can change like just the head ones and leave the body ones alone, or change just the body ones. But there's been a lot of discussion in recent weeks about the possibility of trying to break up the shape itself so that it doesn't, basically you don't have to specify all the parameters in the shape, but instead you could have kind of a more restricted notion of a shape that just specifies values for the head or just specifies values for the body, just for the arm. So that's been talked about, but we don't have anything, any plans on that right now. Yeah, I don't know if we had, we do have these tools for Animesh now. Does it make sense to extend them to avatars? It's it's a possibility worth thinking about once we've got things in what we think is the final state for Animeshes. So under the hood, it's all mostly the same stuff going on anyway. Yeah, I don't think you could incorporate the body shape change. We'd have to be able to add. Yeah, the problem is right now with avatars, everything gets resolved by the baking service that generates the appearance information. So if you wanted to tweak any of the parameters by script, then that those individual customizations would have to kind of work their way to the appearance service and the baking service, and then work their way back from there to the viewer. Given the way that avatars get resolved, it would be quite a bit more of a hassle to do that than doing it with the animeshes today. Yeah, having it be based on shapes or on some new, wearable that includes some of the stuff that's in a shape, would work better with the baking service, since it's already used to dealing with that kind of thing. Oh, hey, nice beastie. Yeah, having those kind of sub shapes be like an override might be one way to do it. It would complicate the UI though, because right now we've got these tools for edit your appearance, and so you go into this mode where you're dragging sliders around, and under the hood it's modifying your shape, but you don't usually have to think about the fact that you're dealing with the shape too much. But now you've got two different things. Well, you're editing shape, or you're editing head shape, so that stuff might get a little bit squirrely. Yeah, I don't know. I thought we had mesh imports so we could get away from sculpties. Well, I think it's in the list. I know we've talked about it a bunch of times. I'll take a look. Well, Sculpey's not really mesh in terms of the systems that the viewer uses. I mean, yeah, everything is a bunch of triangles if you boil it down far enough, but the details of kind of how you get those triangles is quite a bit different. So like the system avatar model and uploaded meshes and prims and sculptees are all really kind of different things under the hood. So they're all ways of getting collections of triangles at the end of the day. I'm not sure how much the viewer is aware of the server frame number. When does it need to know that? Yeah, trying to synchronize stuff is tricky. I think a model where you're trying to say, do this now based on when the server thinks now is going to be a problem because you never know how long any of your messages take to get, from one place to another either. Maybe we need to have some kind of a model where you specifically say, okay, I want, this, and this to be synchronized, and then the server just tells the viewer, okay, you sorted it out, and then the viewer does its thing. Yeah, I'm not really sure how straightforward any of that would be. Well, yeah, I mean, server and viewer each have their own, clocks that you can treat them as both knowing about Unix time, but remember that you've got, networking lag every time they're talking to each other. So I think it would be harder to sync things up, with a lot of kind of round trip traffic. I think you're getting into time protocol stuff at this point, which is not my area. Let me see, the custom origin for mesh uploads, I think all of your work for that has been done, and it's just right now starved on getting a back-end developer to make the simulator side changes. Those guys are pretty busy these days. Silas, where do you need to be outside the bounding box? You're thinking about something like a pivot for a door or whatever? So, you're saying you want to be able to have a command that says, play this animation at, server frame time X, and then each viewer kind of tries to do that when it gets some notice that that's what the current server time is? I mean, I don't think there's like a continuous update stream where the viewer keeps getting told what the server's time is. Mostly they're just kind of each doing their own thing. Yeah, Lucy, I'd be really interested to see a JIRA on this, because it's, there's a lot of ways you could potentially approach synchronization, and I'd like to understand the use case better first, exactly what you're trying to accomplish. Yeah, just for laughs, I will take a look and see what's going on with that server-side pivot issue bug. I know it's out there, but I haven't heard anything for a while. See if we can stir up any interest in it. I think the way we have it designed now is that the pivot is required to be within the bounding box, but Silas was saying that it wouldn't be useful with that restriction. So, curious what everybody thinks. It's getting a little late right now, though. We're going to have to wrap it up for today. So I should talk schedule. We got a bunch of holidays and such like distractions coming up. So next week is Thanksgiving in the U.S., and the week after that, the first week in December, we have our usual company meeting. So we've got 2 weeks where there's no meetings, and then 2 weeks where we do have meetings, December 12th and 19th, and then next batch of holidays hits, and we've got 2 more weeks off. So I will see everybody on December 12th. Then. All right, bye all.
Awesome. Thanks, Vir. Thanks, Ascendants. Thanks, everyone.
Yep. Thanks, guys.